So all of today we've been discussing food and agriculture, biodiversity, climate change, the role of farmers, the role of consumers, the role of multiples, the role of governments. But you know, it's a busy space, but it's also sometimes a bit depressing because the data, the statistics, the science is telling us that we're going in the wrong direction. We're in the middle of a serious biodiversity and climate emergency. We have water pollution problems, we have air pollution problems, we have farm viability problems, and we have a growing concern about the cost of food and energy and all the inputs that are required as part of the agricultural system. So it's absolutely amazing to be able to finish the day with some good news stories, some absolutely amazing women, and they're both accountants, which is just extraordinary. Yeah, I was telling them that I was at a webinar the other day about COP27, the next climate summit coming up in Egypt, and one of the contributors made the point at the end that, you know what, it's the accountants that are going to fix this problem, this climate problem, which, you know, to those of us in the policy world is always a bit funny. But I think that when you look at these two women, it's probably the case that the accountants are going to fix this. So they're going to tell us, they both run hydroponic farms, and they're going to each tell us their story about how they arrived at this and what they're doing and how the business is going, essentially. So we might start with you, Karen Henessy, and I'll let you introduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here. Delighted to be in Kilkenny, my hometown, with so many people I know in the audience. So I'm CEO of Real Leaf Farm. And so we're a hydroponic farm. So we're setting up hydroponic farms in Ireland and in the UK. So our first farm is going to be in County Offaly. And myself and Ciara are going to explain what hydroponics is all about. So it's basically growing vegetables using water and nutrients. So we use no soil, no peat, no chemical pesticides. So we're slightly different from Ciara, but we're building very large scale glass houses. So the first one is going to be in County Offaly. It's a 1 hectare glass house where we're going to be using a lot of the natural light all year round, but we're going to be using 0 fossil fuels to grow vegetables. So it's a very exciting journey, and in actual fact, myself and Ciara, we're both kind of pioneering in terms of hydroponics. So if you can imagine a plant, so I'm growing leafy greens, so your baby leaf that you buy in your packed salads every week. So I'm growing them in a glass house where you're sitting in rafts, but the roots are submerged in water and the nutrients are pumped into those roots. So there is no waste of nutrients, there's no waste of water. We actually use 90% less water than traditional growing methods. Now I'm not going to say much more because I'm going to steal Ciara's thunder, but we're going to be talking about hydroponics and how we're growing them and how we are kind of a disruptive industry. We're part of the regenerative farming and regenerative agriculture. So we believe it's very much the way forward, but I'm going to hand over to Ciara first.
Yeah, my background, I am an accountant, but I married a leash farmer, and we are looking to diversify the farm. So the farm is primarily an organic Hereford suckler farm, and we decided to diversify and grow or build a mushroom tunnel. And instead of growing mushrooms, we have a vertical hydroponic farm. So we grow 6 rows high, which kind of estimates at about 9 or 10 foot. And like Karen was saying, we grow purely in water. So the water just recycles itself and the plants take what they need. And we're growing microgreens, baby leaf salad and herbs. We really wanted to do this because we're looking at our farming environment. We really want to look at sustainability, ethical farming and eco-friendly methods, and we thought this was a great way of kind of securing the future of the farm, because I think we need to look at ways to I suppose, change the way we farm today and look at ways that are traditional and that work. Let's go back and revisit some of the regenerative methods, but also look at agri-tech and see where that has a place in farming today and see how we can marry them together. And so far we've had great feedback from our products, and we're very, very happy with the networking we have a stall here in Kilkenny, and we're getting great feedback. But I really want to also focus on how we can use our traditional methods. Like, can we go back and look at ways of what we've done hundreds of years ago, and reintroduce some of those methods also, because I think if we can marry both, then we get the best of everything. And some of the things we want to do is really involve our community. So our neighbouring farms are getting involved and are very keen to see how hydroponic operates, and what a hydroponic farm looks like. So we're very happy to bring people in and show them what it looks like. We're slightly different to Karen. We grow under LED lights, so our mushroom tunnel is insulated, which help us keep the temperature at about 20 degrees. And with that, then we grow under LED lights, and we give the plant the perfect growing environment. And so that's kind of our story as we have today.
Sorry, yeah, we give you something there. Well, what kind of nutrients are you using? This is my question. So surely it's not just water, right? The plants need the nutrients. So how do you get those? Who provides them?
So we're using nutrients, but they are kind of organic nutrients that are used as soluble, so they have to be able to dissolve in water. So we're sourcing them mainly from the UK. That's where we're sourcing them. So in relation to, I suppose what we're doing is we're being this is what's exciting about hydroponics. There's very little waste. So what you're doing is you're pumping the nutrients into the roots, and then all the nutrients that are not taken up by that plant is left there for the next raft, because we're doing deep water hydroponics. I think you're doing the gutter system? Deep water. So deep water. So it's literally, if you could imagine, you've got a pond about this size, and the roots are just dipping into that water, they're submerged in the water, and you're pumping the nutrients into it. So when those plants are taken off to be harvested, all those nutrients are left there to be then used by the next batch. So it's very different from conventional agriculture, where if you could imagine, you're spraying the fertilizer, you're spraying the nutrients over kind of a soil period. So some of the soil, some of the area is getting them, whereas ours are very dedicated just to those plants. And we have actually, our site is up in, as I said, in County Offaly, but it's an old Board-na-Mona site, which was used for industrial land. So it's a lovely story. You're bringing industrial use back to agricultural land. They used to use it to repair the railway tracks across Board-na-Mona. So we have an agreement with Board-na-Mona. When we need to empty a pond, which is not very often, that pond will be emptied on the bogs, so to regenerate. So it's a very circular economy and a very nice way. There's no waste at any stage in what we're doing.
It's quite amazing. And is there any difference in the nutritional value of the food itself, of the leaves, the crops?
We have done some work with UCC, so University College Cork, on our shelf life, and also they did work on the nutritional value. So it has been, there's out there that there's literature to say that hydroponically grown crops can be more nutritionally advantageous. But at this stage, we're not ready to go out and say that on our packs. We'd want to be growing over many years before you could state that, but there is historical evidence to say that is the case.
It's certainly not less nutritious.
No. Yeah. I suppose one thing to say about what we're doing. So at the moment, if you imagine, so I hope all of you are salad eaters or microgreen eaters in this room, but if you can imagine on all of your plates, so 80 to 90% of all leaves that you're consuming have been imported. So they've come from Spain, Italy, Netherlands, even as far afield as Israel. So if you're wondering why each time you buy a pack of lettuce, that within 3 or 4 days it's gone off in your fridge, and unfortunately we've got to put it to your compost heap, it's because that lettuce leaf, if you could imagine, it's been harvested in Spain or Italy or the Netherlands. It then goes into a warehouse. It's then chlorine washed in the warehouse. It then travels maybe 6 days to Ireland, maybe less, in a truck before it gets onto the shelves. And often it's repackaged in Ireland and probably rewashed in a different so that is why our leaves don't have the shelf life, because it's already spent half its shelf life travelling in a truck from Europe. So we have great growers in Ireland. Some of them are already in this room. But and I think Ciara is the same, we're not going after the fabulous traditional growers that are happening in Ireland. This is 80 to 90% is imported. So we're just looking at trying to substitute some of the imports that are already happening.
That's fantastic. What an amazing story of the bag of lettuce. We talked earlier, Ciara, about the role of multiples, the role of the big supermarket chains, and the way that they're selling food at such low prices that growers can't make a living, and many growers are actually leaving the business altogether. So how do you position yourself business-wise in that highly competitive marketplace, and how are you getting on with those multiples?
Well, currently we're focusing, now we're very early stage, very early days, and we're focusing on microgreens. We will expand into herbs and also baby leaf salads. But for currently, we find that we're actually attracted more, not towards actually retail and the big retailers. We're more focused on wholesale, and really going into wholesale to the chefs, the hotels, the restaurants, because they are the people who really appreciate Irish product, and also that it's it's locally grown. I think we've got amazing feedback even from the local grocers here in Kilkenny who already have approached us to stock. And I think it's not that the retailers have their place, and they are absolutely really key. But I think for us starting out as a new business, we're very attracted to people who really respect Irish, homegrown. And we want to serve 12 months of the year, and that's what myself and Karen can do. We can eliminate imports, and we don't want to import and rebrand under our own name. We want to be Irish grown, and anything that's leaving our farm is what we're selling, not something we're bringing through. So currently we're very keen to meet people who really understand that and then can appreciate the price. But I don't think there's an excessive difference in our price. It's just, obviously, as I say, we're very early days, so we're trying to work with people who really understand the product. But, I'm very happy to work with the retailers too, and I think there is a place for us there as well. I absolutely think so. She warned me not to scare anybody, right? But I think we're heading into a period where, some people here will know this, but a lot of the growing has happened in the Netherlands. During the summer period, it would be in Italy and Spain. But over the last 10 years, the Netherlands have switched. They've switched to growing flowers. So a lot of the growing of vegetables had switched to Ukraine. So what you're going to see over the winter period is that the Netherlands are not switching on the gas because of the gas prices, and there is going to be a lot less product on the shelves as we enter the next period. And this is obviously not good for all of us in the room trying to look for nutritious, healthy vegetables, but it's a reality of the world we're living in. So just to kind of take it up a level, what has happened in the last few years? So we've had cheap energy, we've had cheap labour and a lot of migration of labour, and we've had, therefore, cheap food. With what has happened with the war on Ukraine, people are now looking at their own countries, and they're now very nervous about investing elsewhere. If anyone has invested in Russia, they've lost all their investments. There's so many people losing. So people are very, very cautious, and they're protecting their energy sources, but they're also protecting their food sources. So food security and the importance of being able to grow local is now becoming a critical concern for government. This wasn't a concern when we could import labour, we could have all that free access. So this is a serious concern for all of us, and how we eat. I mean, and we all know
that about 50% of our diet should be fruit and veg. However, if you look at, now if I go to the US first, and I look at the US, so the US uses 60% of its land to grow soy, maize, corn, and that's to feed cattle and foodlots. They use 2% of their land to actually, for horticulture. So what they need 50% of their diet to be coming from fruit and veg, but they use 2% of their land to actually grow it. So you come back to Ireland, which is a very good horticultural, and we know this, are very good green, grass growing. I'm a dairy farmer's daughter, so and Ciara, so you know we do have a good agricultural piece in Ireland. But if you look at horticulture, less than 1% of the land mass in Ireland. So we give out by the states, but less than 1% is actually used to grow fruit and vegetables. 95% of our apples are imported. 80% of our onions, and 50%.
50% of our potatoes are imported. As an Irish nation, I think that's incredible. Sorry.
No. And in the business that we're in, 80 to 90% are imported. So we do have to look at what we're doing in Ireland, and where we've relied on imports for many years, and we've probably invested in policies. I'm sure you're very invested in food policy in Ireland. That has to change. You know, food security and making sure that we know where our food is coming from is becoming more and more important.
I have to ask you this question because I know so little about hydroponics, but what kind of plants can you grow this way? Could we possibly, apart from our root vegetables, could we grow everything else?
I think, and Karen, you join in, but I think the options to do anything is there. It's just exploring. You know, it is down to the hydroponic system you have. So whether it's rafts or whether it's the gutter-like system, but you can do so much. Like I know Keelings are even growing hydroponically, the strawberries, like that's an easy one. But certainly there is experimental. You know, everybody's exploring about what we can do, because I think the world is our oyster as far as hydroponics is. It's just about getting in there and exploring and getting R&D up and running, because I think we could do so much with it. And it is like we're not touching the product. It is the way to go, and it is about food security. It's about, you know, a lot of our horticulture died because there was such challenges to get the right price for these farmers, horticulturist farmers. And I think we need to bring it back, because we have the land, we have the capability, and I think we need to explore what hydroponics can do, because it's something, like, to think of how much we're importing, it just doesn't make sense. We need to really explore this.
Hi, I might just add that hydroponics is not new. So while it might sound like a scientific, it's not. So the hanging gardens of Babylon were based on the same principles. And Pat Fitzgerald, who's sitting over there in the corner, has been involved in hydroponics over many years. So what we're doing is not new to the Irish scene. As I said, Keelings are doing it. Many people are doing it. I know that Kathleen Ledbetter from Jerpoint, they grew grass hydroponically or grain hydroponically many years ago. So there's been a lot of people experimenting and doing it in this sector. I think what's different about the two of us, and certainly in my case, what we're doing is large scale hydroponics, and we're 100%. So there's many different, now a lot of the times the weight, like you could possibly grow potatoes hydroponically, but the weight of them would cause a problem. So probably what we're growing is more the lighter varieties. So certainly I'm doing a whole range of lettuce leaves, from your butternut to your frizzies, your Lolo Rossa, your Batava. So you can imagine, you go into a supermarket and you buy your mixed bag of leafy greens. That's what we're growing. And then we'll have a second range, we'll have rocket within it, and we're trialling kale, and we're trialling other, but there's a great excitement, and there's that there could be even protein-based variants that you could, now variants is probably very wrong word to use, but varieties that you could use, and you could actually now be growing protein-based different varieties that will really transform. But we're just trying to grow lettuce, right? And the first off, but we are trialing other very exciting, very different, very nutraceutically high in different vitamins and minerals. Now, for me, we are not doing cannabis. Just to put it out there. I don't know about you, but we're not doing any cannabis.
The license isn't in yet in Ireland. We're looking at it.
I just have one other question for you. You mentioned earlier, Ciara, the importance of experimentation and R&D. What needs to happen at the policy level to support farmers like yourselves and to encourage more farmers to take this on?
I think, I found just even from our local enterprises, we've got great support, but I think certainly if government can really look to support financially, because there's a huge burden on the farmer to fund particularly new agri-tech methods. Certainly we're all self-funded as a family, and that's heavy upfront investment, and I think if there could be support around training, around also investing in these agri-tech methods, because we have got great support locally, and I think, but if there's more awareness, more education and more investment from the policy holders, I think there's opportunity there. I think we need to all also work as a community, because the more we speak to each other, the more we educate each other. No one knows everything, and I'm learning a huge amount from people that I work next door to, and they're coming in and learning from me. And that's one of the biggest ways we can change policy, is by talking together. Being the farming community is incredible, and I think if we work together and we're open and sharing, then that's one of the best ways we can evolve.
I might add to that. So I've been on a fundraising mission for the last probably 2 years. So I would say the government have gotten it. They fully understand it. We've had significant support from both the Just Transition, because we're in the Midlands, and we're, where they've stopped the mine of peat practically overnight, and they needed new industry to come in. So we're a horticultural industry, so it's just very different. But they see us as, we're going to be employing people, and so that's very good. And the Department of Ag have also been very good. We have been dealing with a lot of investors, impact investors, green investors, but I think there's a long way to go. What Ciara and myself are doing takes significant investment. So we are not a technology play, while there is significant technology used in what we're doing, and we're bringing technology that was used in other industries now to be used in the growing of vegetables. But I think that's where I would say at a government level they're a lot more supportive, and they're very much there. But it's at banking, it's at VCs, at an investor level. They still want, a technology play. They want a hockey stick return, whereas what we're doing, every time you want to scale it, you've got to build a new facility. You've got to, and this is bricks and mortar, this is glass, or in your case it's a little bit different, but steel. But I'm doing a lot of work as well with, I've spoken to the Carbon Trust, and I've spoken to a very lovely new company in Ireland, a startup like ourselves called No Carbon, to look at what our imprint is and the damage that potentially we could do to the environment. And their response is, we are nearly carbon neutral in what we're doing. No, I can't say that. I just said it, but I can't. He hasn't given me the certificate, but we're getting to that in terms of what we're doing. We're extremely low carbon in terms of what we're doing, but it's really important for us that we don't say something that we can't stand over. And I think that's coming. I think the Carbon Trust, which is a global stamp, that you see that footprint on your pack, but all of that is what all of us, I'd say, if you're all in this room listening to on sustainability, you want to know what you're buying is real, and it is not damaging your environment. So I like to say, where we're building in Ballycon, that if you took down our facility in the morning, we will have done no damage to that environment. And that's something I'm very proud of and drives all of our mission and our ethos in the company, is to make sure that we're very sustainable.
That's just fantastic. I'm just wondering if people have any questions for Ciara and Karen. Yes? How many hydroponic farms do you intend building?
Okay, seeing that's from my daughter, I would have thought she would have listened to me at this stage. So our first hydroponic farm is a 1 hectare of glass in Ballyconn in County Offaly, and we're planning to build 3 more of equal size. Thank you.
Well done. Any more questions?
The nutrients that you're reading from the UK to add to the water, can you give us an example as to what exactly they are? And if they're cost as well, approximately?
I could probably give you the cost. I can't give you the exact detail. I'm not by I'm a head of horticulture. If he was here, he could give you the exact detail. Ciara.
I can give you the code. It's MP and K, so it's like potassium nitrate, and I would have to look at it's actually Noel, my business partner, who does all the growing, but it is we're bringing ours in from Spain, and cost-wise, I don't actually have a cost. I would have to research that, but I didn't think it was outrageous. No.
Okay. Yeah, it has to be soluble, so I can get those details if you'd like, but I don't know them.
So how small scale can this be? Is it the sort of thing you could imagine people doing in their back gardens? As in, if we were driving self-sufficiency, or to be more self-sufficient in food production?
I think a lot of people did during COVID, actually. I think, as far as I'm aware, a lot of people became particularly microgreens and the baby leaf, a lot of people started actually investing in your 10 by 20 tray and grow mats and growing their own produce. I think, it's beautiful actually to grow and eat your own food. There is actually something lovely about that, to see it grow and to feel like you were part of it. And I actually think during COVID that really took off. I don't know if it's still continuing. But I think you can be absolutely as big or as small as you want, and I think people should be encouraged to do it. I think people should be encouraged to go back and understand how to grow food, how to use food, and how to kind of play with food and have fun with it again. But it's really important to know where it comes from, and I think people should all try. You don't need an acre or 2 acres of land. You absolutely can do it in flower pots on your windowsill, and that's part of the beauty of hydroponics. You can absolutely, the smallest space can work for you.
So you guys need a YouTube channel with instructions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I ask just another question? It was actually raised by people who were at an earlier session and they had to leave and they couldn't stay with us. And they're 2 sisters who run a lovely greengrocer shop here in Kilkenny. And they made the point that with the cost of living crisis now and the way that is being portrayed in the media, people are cutting back on, their sort of organic food purchases in order to save money for their energy bills. And they had direct evidence of this because they're involved in retailing organic produce that's grown locally, and the organic producers are saying the same thing. The guys selling out at the market here are saying that people are spending less money on quality local food in order to save money for their electricity bills. And I was surprised at this, and they were saying that there's something wrong with our mentality, that we're making such compromises with what is an essential part of our survival, our daily needs, that we shouldn't be cutting back on quality food, and yet that seems to be a feature of this inflationary period. And if you any observations or comments to make about that?
I was actually going to respond to the the gentleman's comment earlier. So if we were grown in the States, what we were doing would be deemed as organic. But because we're grown in Europe, if you don't grow in soil, we're not organic. So we can't sell our produce as organic. So just to be clear, we're not.
And I can't because I grow under LED lights. So again, I don't actually buy organic fertilizer. Ours is not. But once you grow under LED lights, you are not deemed organic in Europe. Again, in the US, that is deemed organic. So the regulations are very complicated and very complex. But just before Karen jumps in, I think people are absolutely having to change with the cost of living, and I think there's a lot of scaremongering going on that we're going to have no electricity, and there's a lot of fear out there, and I think people will, continue to buy well. I'm meeting loads of families who actually are really conscious about what they're eating, but they're like choosing to buy, less frequently meat or whatever their choices are. But I think what will happen is, and what you often see is, maybe in times to come, if this recession really hits, we won't be going on the expensive holidays, and we won't be changing our cars, and we won't be buying the brand new things. But what we should be doing is allowing ourselves the luxury of having good food, because that's key. And we need to kind of remember that, and I've been talking to people today, and I'm like, organic is huge. And it's really important. And as myself and Karen have said, we're not technically organic, but at the end of the day, what we do have is an excellent product, and our product taste is uncompromised. So it's like when you taste an organic carrot and you buy a regular carrot that isn't organic, there is absolutely no comparison on taste. And it's the same when you grow hydroponically, because we're not putting pesticides on it. And that's really, it's not whether you're using the organic fertilizer or what is it, it's around the taste that you get from your product. I don't touch the product. I sow an organic seed, I allow it to do its thing, and then I harvest. And that's what I think is good quality food. And it's the same with now, and I'm not trying to sell Hereford beef, but again, our farm is about really having sustainable farming methods, ethical farming methods, so animal welfare being key as well, so that we're not needing more antibiotics and the likes. And it's just about educating people that really good food is so good for you, and hopefully, with the recession, that we can focus on good food rather than holidays, etc.
I think Ciara has covered very well there. And the only thing I would add to that is certainly the price point that I would be selling at is not over and above what's already in the supermarket. So we're not trying to come in at an exceptionally high. And I think everyone here, if you go into a supermarket and you're picking up a bag of lettuce, if it's already wilted and gone off, you're not going to buy it. No matter if it's half price or it's 70% off, what good is a bag of gone off lettuce? So what we will be hoping in both our businesses is that we're going to be providing quality, consistent value all year round, so 365 days a year. There is fantastic farmers, and I'm from Kilkenny, Ciara's from Laois. I buy Riverfield, I buy Clonmore, and they are exceptional in terms of the quality that's in those bags. Some of them don't grow all year round, and you begin to see that. So I think there's great people out there, but if you're trying to buy a quality, like at this time of year, your choice is most of the bags of lettuce that you're going to buy will be imported and will have a very short shelf life. So there's a balance between, as I said, no one's going to pick up a bag that's already beginning to go off or wilt. So that's what we're hoping to do, have that side of the market where all year round you've Irish grown, locally grown, and in recessionary times, and I should say, because there's a number of my colleagues here, or can I call you ex-colleagues? So I used to work at the Design and Crafts Council for many years, which I loved. But during a recessionary period, people become more aware of buying local, and we experienced it. I know Mary and there's loads of Mary, but and that is something that people will want to do, is support local and support both local farmers, local craft, whatever it is. And if your price point is in or around what's already on the marketplace, then that's fine.
Well, I certainly hope so. It would be terrible to think that just as this new industry is getting going, that people would start cutting back on locally grown, fresh green vegetables and so on. Are there any other questions for Ciara or Karen? Yes, yourself at the end.
I'm going to have to give this to Ciara. We're currently building our first facility. So we've only got, we do trials at the moment to go into customers, but we're going to be 9 months away before we're growing. You can get Ciara's.
And we're currently we're very new. So this is actually our first event, Savour Kilkenny. But we do have a stall and we are selling we do have an email and a phone number, but currently we're actually exploring local grocers like the Little Green Grocer or other places. We were actually approached by a small grocer in Galway. So we are looking to go into small retail, but as I say, this is our first event. Yeah, so we're trading under Beaufield Farm. We're actually up near the castle entrance, so if you'd love to come, we'd love to see you. Come up and try some of our product. We'd be really excited to share it with you and tell you more of our story.
So we'll be growing, as I said, it'll be 9 months before we're up and running, but we're negotiating at the moment with multiples and with food service. So that's the route we'll be going later on. So you will, this time next year, you'll get our product on the shelf, lovely, bright pink bag. I hope you love it. Morris, I only spotted him there. He could have answered all my my nutrient questions. So yeah, so we'll be on. It'll be this time next year, really, when we're up and running. So our company's called Real Leaf Farm. So REAL. So Real Leaf Farm.
There was a couple of other hands up. With questions. No? We're nearly done. We have a couple of more minutes. Maria, yes.
So we're going to be using the pillow bags that you'd be familiar with. I think you're probably using slightly different. So the bags that we're using, we're not using modified or anything like that. It's just natural product. We're unwashed. So what we're planning to do over time, but when we first go out in the marketplace, it'll be unwashed and up to yourself to wash. Over time, we will be unwashed, ready to eat. But we will not be going out because we'll need to prove ourselves to the multiples that is unwashed, ready to eat. Our process is so clean. So if you can imagine, the seed arrives in, an organic seed, it's then seeded, germinated, propagated. But the people as they come in, the growers, they will change into a different uniform to come into our facility, into our glass house. It will then move into a 1 hectare glass house, so all very flat. But what it is it's 100 meters by 11 meters wide troughs of water, so deep water ponds. So no one is really, okay, they'll be examined to make sure there's nothing happening. But they'll grow over a 35-day period. They'll then be lifted up off the raft, in a raft, so not even touch the leaves. They'll go into a water flume. That will move into a harvester where they'll be automatically, the roots will be cut off, then the leaves will cut off. The leaves will fall into a tote. The tote will then be brought in automatically into a storage area to bring, so it'll be up to 18 degrees in that glass house. So then it'll bring the glass house temperature down in the cold room before it goes into a high care packaging facility. So everyone in there will have a different suited and booted, and in there it'll be packaged. So on the plastic, so what we're using is what out there at the moment, which can be recycled. So we are looking at other methods of packaging, but we're not trying to solve everything in the first year of getting up and running. We would like to become maybe we've done trials on different types of plastics on compostable, but what was happening with the compostable that we were using, it was beginning to rot the plant in the plastic. So what we're doing is we're using what's already out there that can go into to be recycled, But we are very much looking, and we're going to be doing work with Athlone Institute of Technology, which is now called TUS, Technology University of Shannon, to look at different packaging methods. But we're not, but I suppose what I was explaining to you is that it's such a clean process. So you get your bag, it's really a pillow bag, will not be modified. You'll use that, you'll use your leaves, hopefully with no waste, and that's the plan, because we're getting significantly more shelf life than would be out there. And then you put your actual packaging in your recyclable waste.
I would say packaging is an absolute nightmare. It's still a nightmare, no matter, there's very few companies in Ireland that do true recyclable plastic. I'm exploring currently, just again under time pressure and being a new company, we are using plant-based plastic, but that's not widely recyclable. But then you're playing with the other side of, I can have plastic that's compostable, but that's actually been made from plastic, and so you're continually challenging yourself, do I go with plant-based or do I go with something that was actually made from plastic but I can put in my compost heap, because either doesn't really work. So we're in a clamshell, because I'm speaking to microgreens and baby leaf, but I hate the plastic concept, so I'm not there on my packaging. I really want to explore something that probably is plant-based but can also be widely recyclable. It's very challenging, as Karen kind of touched on. It's very hard to use, say, cardboard or the likes, because the moisture content can destroy the product, and also the packaging won't sustain its shelf life. So I would say it's one of our biggest challenges. We're not there yet, but I'm certainly really focused on it because it's really key, and I know a lot of our customers really care about how we package our product.
I think there's a lot of change happening already. So we're going to be swept along in the change, and that's, there's a lot of, so in our facility what we're trying to do is everything is built sustainable. So yeah, I was worried up until about probably a year ago. I was completely only focused on how we were going to solve the packaging. But now that it's recyclable, that is okay. It's not perfect, but it gets us. We will now, I'd say in the next year, you're going to see a huge change in all those areas, in materials and the use of materials, and we will then hopefully benefit from that change and that research that's going in.
If we have no more questions, I might just wrap up in that case. I just can't thank you enough, both of you, Ciara and Karen, for joining us today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and it's just really exciting to see new companies building their businesses around this model of sustainability. You're an example to us all, and thank you so much, and the best of luck with it as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So that actually concludes the Sustainable Hub at this year's Savour Kilkenny. But you'll be glad to know that all of the stalls are still open for another hour or so, you can head up and grab yourselves more goodies and come back tomorrow for more again. So thank you for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed the chats today.
Thank you.